All right, and welcome to Fast Break Breakfast NBA Podcast. My name is Keith Parrish. I've got Shamit Dua on today's episode to talk about the New Orleans Pelicans and that Pelicans-Grizzlies rivalry that we're hoping to get going. If you are a Fast Break Breakfast listener, I'm putting this up top because some people are missing it. If you are planning to play fantasy basketball in our Patreon supporter fantasy basketball leagues, that includes the Negative Fantasy League, the International Stackhouse of Pancakes Negative Fantasy League. Well, you need to sign up right now. If you're confused how, just send me a DM on Twitter. But basically, go to patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast. Look at the pinned post about fantasy basketball. Make sure you're at the $5 a month tier. And then just fill out the Google form, and we will get you in one of those fantasy leagues. The first one drafts this Sunday, October 12th. Also, if you're in the Nashville area, get ready for a Grizzlies watch party on Friday, October 21st at Noble's Beer Hall. We will be giving away a bunch of Grizzlies prizes and watching the Grizzlies and the Rockets play. So a lot of stuff going on. In the NBA, the news of the day for Wednesday was that Draymond Green and Jordan Poole got in a fight. I'd like to think it was based off of Jordan Poole talking about Tyler Hero's contract extension and Draymond Green saying he's not worth that extension. And then Jordan Poole saying, yes, he is. No, I don't know what it was about. But I am endlessly tickled that Chris Haynes from Yahoo reported that basically all the teammates wanted Draymond to punch Jordan Poole. He didn't actually say that. But he did, quote, report. Chris Haynes said, Draymond Green was apologetic, but there was a buildup stemming from teammates noticing a change in Poole's behavior throughout camp, with the guard on the verge of securing a lucrative extension. So somebody in Draymond's camp is like, yeah, Draymond punched him, but Poole was asking for it. I can't get over Chris Haynes putting that out there. I know it's all access journalism. I know it's funny when Woj tweets the stats of whichever player signed because clearly the agent has provided the stats that need to be accompanied with this news leak. But saying Jordan Poole was annoying all the teammates and that's why Draymond Green hit him, incredible stuff. More good vibes in the NBA. More fun preseason action. And by the way, the preseason action, it's so good. All the hype train still rolling. You got to have that Zion Willamson hype going strong. That's what I talk with Shamit about. That hype train is still rolling strong. I mean, we talked last episode about Keegan Murray. Well, guess what? Jaden Ivey had his chance to show what he could do in his first preseason game. Yeah, he looked pretty exciting too. I mean, Jalen Duren looks like a good defender. I mean, I don't know. I'm just excited for basketball. This actual long off season got me thirsting for basketball once again. Anyways, if you're getting excited like me about basketball and you're excited about the Memphis Grizzlies, well, by all means, guarantee your Grizz and get the season's biggest games, best giveaways, and best seats at a great price with 2022-2023 Grizzlies season tickets, half-season plans, and 10-game packs. Lock in your tickets to see Ja, Jaren, Dez, and all your favorite Grizzlies make big-time noise starting at $11 per game. Get your tickets now by calling 901-888-HOOP or clicking grizzlies.com. All right, now let's bring Shamit on here and talk about those Pelicans. Joined right now by Shamit Dua, who covers the Pelicans. Shamit, how's it going, man?
What's up, Keith? Always a pleasure to be on your show. I'm doing well.
Yeah, I can't remember. I know you've been on the show, but I'm not sure you've ever been like let's call it the featured guest where I talk about your breakfast. Have you ever done your breakfast talk on the show?
We talked about my breakfast the previous time, except my answers changed because the last time I told you I intermittent fast and I don't eat breakfast.
Right.
And I've henceforth changed my eating habits, and now it's 1 egg with 2 egg whites, with some scrambled with some onions and like seasoned stuff thrown in. So that's my.
Is it like just your daily routine?
Yeah, just trying to get some protein in to start the day. I'm vegetarian, but I do eat eggs and dairy, so you know, not vegan. And that's like a quick, cheap way for me to get like some protein in.
And I'm all about the eggs. Can't beat them. Undefeated. Top breakfast of mankind for several millennia running. So you cover the Pelicans. I would like to think our teams have a rivalry. It doesn't feel like it, but we're supposed to have a rivalry, right? This is a thing. It's been a passion of mine for several years. You know, you have that, the regional, there's a geographic connection. There's a Mississippi River connection between Memphis and New Orleans. There's music, there's culture, you know, both great food scenes, both very proud people. I mean, I'm not from Memphis, but I adopted the city and the team for basketball reasons. Do you feel like, is this rivalry getting anywhere? We thought Ja and Zion were going to kickstart it, and then it kind of fizzled.
Yeah, I mean, like, I feel like it exists more in the minds of like particularly rabid fans than it does in actuality. I mean, I'm certain that like the teams and players don't see it that way, but I mean, it makes sense because both Ja and Zion were in the same draft class. They kicked off the same rebuild around the same time, going 1 and 2. And there was supposed to be this measure of like, well, how are these teams going to grow with these stars as they progress through their rookie contracts and beyond? And obviously Ja and the Grizzlies have kind of put that to rest for now because of A, availability, B, just the amount of success the Grizzlies have had. But it seems like the Pelicans are trending upwards, and now maybe they can reignite some of those conversations of like, hey, like, you know, what is the future going to look like in the Southwest Division and with these two teams going at it?
It's been very strange where in the 3 years since Ja and Zion got drafted, where the Pelicans almost always whip the Grizzlies. Yet the Grizzlies are always way ahead of them in the standings. So it's like, well, if I had to choose, I guess I will take my whatever semi-annual beatdown at the hands of the Pelicans. Although last year it kind of righted itself and the Grizzlies got a tinge of revenge for some of those awful blowouts. But this year, like you say, I mean, the Grizzlies arrow is pointed up, or I guess maintaining up, you assume. Everyone's very excited about the Grizzlies, especially, you know, among the fan base, but even nationally, most people assume the Grizzlies are going to be good again. They are the betting favorites to win the Southwest Division title, which they won last year. But like the Pelicans, the enthusiasm for the Pelicans, I feel like it's trending up again. Zion Williamson played a preseason game a couple nights ago, just beyond spectacular. It was just that breathtaking. Oh my goodness. Like he can do a thing. He can block shots at the rim where the referee's confused. Like that must've been goaltending. Like, nope, you missed that call. Like Zion just got up that big and just casually swatted these shots away. So is this ramp up? Is my enthusiasm, is this national enthusiasm like, oh my gosh, Zion's back? Why aren't we just going to be let down again? Because I've been on this roller coaster before and it let me down.
I mean, that's the question everyone's asking, right? And it depends on health and availability, like it always has. Like it's never been a question of can this player produce. No, like when the last time he was healthy, he put up 27 points a game on over 60% from the field. It was historic scoring number. So it's how many games are you actually getting from him? And with this level of conditioning, with this level of, I guess, like body recomposition and overhaul, it seems like we're in for a really special season, right? And we all say that on paper.
Yeah.
But the other reason is his co-stars. You know, they had a successful season last year where he didn't play a single game. And it's because Brandon Ingram took another leap as a player, especially as a playmaker. They added a veteran like CJ McCollum. Obviously, getting Jonas Valanciunas from the Grizzlies helped revamp their offense in a way that Steven Adams, like, perhaps limited them. And I think the exchange was beneficial for both teams. But, you know, that's just another weapon they have for stemming maybe, I guess, the bleeding if Zion misses games. Because I think even if Zion doesn't play a single game this year, I would still put him in as like a playoff level team.
So this might be me antagonizing Pelicans fans. Last year, absolutely. There were some great strides made on the roster outside of even just like, I mean, the CJ McCollum acquisition. Like, I love getting good players. I'm a huge, like, yes, use your draft picks to go get good players. Everyone seems to favor in the NBA discourse. You praise teams, GMs saying the Jazz had the best offseason for getting rid of all their good players. It's like, what's the point? What are we doing here, guys? But so like, I did like the Pelicans getting CJ McCollum, but beyond that, deeper on the roster, the Herb Jones draft pick, getting Jose Alvarado, like Trey Murphy looked encouraging. Those pieces, those ancillary pieces, I'm like, all right, that's a nice foundation for a team. But the antagonistic part of it, now that I got the praise out of the way, everyone's like, oh, we were good last year, even without Zion. It's like when you guys traded for CJ McCollum, you're 14-14. Like you played 500 ball, and the last month of an NBA regular season, it doesn't mean anything. Like, the Pelicans were fine. It was great. They got in the playoffs. All that stuff is good. I appreciate the effort to get there and the fact they did it. They're very fun, very exciting to watch. But like, I'm not sure I buy they'll be fine even if Zion doesn't play. For me, it's like they'll be mediocre. They'll be middle of the pack. I don't see why I would pick them over like, the Lakers or maybe even like the Kings if Zion's not there. Is that too far? Have I gone too far on the criticism?
I think you have. And the reason I think so is because if you look at that 14-14 record, look at how many games Brandon Ingram missed in those.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I believe it was 10 or 12. And Brandon Ingram missed a chunk. CJ missed a chunk. And and it's a terribly small sample, but like the games that Brandon Ingram and CJ McCollum played together, I think they were like 3 or 4 games above 500. Okay. And even though it wasn't a big sample, it translated to like a 47 win pace or something like that. And which is like, all right, cool. But then they really started peaking as they got towards the end of the season and they got to the playoffs, and then they figured out, hey, we don't have to play Garrett Temple. Maybe we should get those minutes to Trey Murphy. Oh, wait a minute, this Jose guy is really good. Maybe we should give him minutes too. And so, there was a little bit of discovery along the way of like, okay, I think we could. There's some low hanging fruit that we can clean up in terms of players who have been getting minutes that absolutely tank lineups in units. And I believe with that sense of newfound data, they would be in a position, if they remain relatively healthy, to carry on from that success that they had. And it just depends on who's available. But I think the thing that hurt the Pelicans the most, Ingram played 55-ish games last season. And that's not a large slate of games. That you want your stars playing close to 70 or over. And in the games that he missed, the Pelicans were like the opposite of the record that the Grizzlies had with John missed. It was 2-20 or something like that. And so it's just like, okay, when these players are all on the floor together, they are really good. That being said, I don't want Zion to miss games, and I do want Zion, available. But there was a little bit of course correction. The first few games when CJ was part of the team, it was, he didn't know a single play. There was this big adjustment period, and all of a sudden Brandon Ingram goes down, and he's missing large stretches of games, and it's an offense that was dictated around Brandon Ingram is now turning the keys over to CJ McCollum. And it's like, okay, that's another transition period. Oh, maybe we shouldn't play Devontae Graham and CJ McCollum together. That's not a smart idea. It's a puny backcourt. Let's try starting Jackson Hayes. And it's like, actually, this Jackson Hayes starting lineup worked out pretty well. So it was, it was an adjustment period. And I think the record, like looking at it from the bird's eye view, it's like, it doesn't tell the whole story. So I think there's a little bit of more confidence that I have. You
convinced me with a lot of good information and a very persuasive argument, but the main piece of it that I'd forgotten was the Garrett Temple aspect. You won me over on the Garrett Temple. I remember now making jokes last year I remember like talking with you and with Mason Ginsberg, just being like, the Pelicans, when Garrett Temple's on the court, they're one of the worst teams in the NBA. Like the stats say, they were like minus 16 per 100 possessions when he was on the court. And then once they turned it over to Trey Murphy, you're like, all right, this team is pretty good. No,
even like without Temple, it was like, oh, let's give Tony Snell minutes. Let's give Gary Clark, who
Tony Snell hasn't missed a free throw since 2018. Watch your mouth.
That guy's a shooting an anomaly. But yeah, it was.
No, yeah, Garrett Temple doesn't need to be playing anymore. You had better options. And this roster, it's incredibly exciting. And like, it looks like it's gonna be really good. So the Vegas odds, I already said like the Grizzlies are favored to win the division, but the Mavericks are second. And then the Pelicans are like plus 400, like way down there, where I'm like, all right. I think the Grizzlies are going to win the division again, but like the odds aren't like worth betting in my mind. It's like, it's not good enough return. Like I don't like being favorites. But then I see the like if I had to make one bet, it definitely would be like I'd rather wager a 4-1 that the Pelicans get it all together and win 50 games. And like I think this division is gonna be very competitive among those three teams. Like if it was even odds, who do you think? Like just ignoring gambling, like who do you think is going to win the division? Do you agree it would be the Grizzlies?
If it was even odds, like I'm a bit of a homer. Like I want to say the Pelicans, but I have to cede it to the Grizzlies because of what they accomplished last year, and especially if they're able to get another leap from Ja, another leap from some of the younger players, and I think it's theirs for the taking for now. I'm not a believer in Dallas, so like they would be my third team no matter what. But yeah, I mean, I'm not a fan of what Dallas. Christian Wood, not a believer in him.
I am definitely right now, and this feels like it falls under the preseason hype category. I am more scared of the Pelicans than I am of the Mavericks. Like I agree with you. Like I'm a little bit terrified of how deep this team is, and the ceiling. If everything clicks, if you get all NBA Zion with CJ McCollum, my main question is, I'm curious, what do you think is like, what's the best five for the Pelicans? Because I don't think your best five as an outsider includes Jonas Valanciunas, but he was a huge part of the team's success last year. For me, I'm a Jonas Valanciunas is like a floor raiser, but I don't think he gets you to your ceiling. But again, I don't know if the perfect piece fits, if there are the perfect pieces on this team. So for you, what's your best 5-man units you think this year for the Pelicans?
Yeah, I mean, I think for the regular season, like Jonas is going to be a part of that group because he just does everything you need in the regular season. He's going to terminate possessions via rebound. He's going to score at a high rate at the rim. He's going to offensive rebound. It's just he does, like you said, he's going to raise the floor, and those kind of things show up in impact metrics. And behind him is Willy Hernangomez and Jackson Hayes, where you're like, okay, like, yes, the sheer on-offs from a drop-off to Jonas to those guys is going to just boost his impact metrics. But I do think they're going to look to go small at that 5 position to close out games with. They're most likely looking at Larry Nance to fill that spot. So you have your starters in CJ McCollum, Brandon Ingram, Zion Williamson. Herb Jones is not moving anywhere from those lineups because he is their best defender. And I think Willie Green will opt to go with Larry Nance to close out games. I would like to see Trey Murphy get more opportunities there. I think just the skill set he provides and the size he has fits really nicely with what all those stars are trying to do and helps boost their games too. But I suspect the coaching staff thinks, Larry's the more senior member, he's more experienced and all that stuff. So he's going to get the nod over Trey. But maybe there's matchups where they feel Trey is a better suited for it.
So is the starting lineup set that it's going to be McCollum and then Herb Jones with Ingram, Zion, and Jonas? Is that the set starters?
I think there's no one threatening that, barring injury.
And then for that second unit, I guess there's some questions there where like, what's it going to look like? We assume Trey Murphy 3 is going to be in that, or I mean, I saw Najee Marshall got the start on Tuesday, which I assume is to fill in. Was that like to maintain the second unit, like the fidelity of the second unit or something?
No, Trey was hurt. He did not play that game. Or sore, whatever, gotcha. Preseason shenanigans. But yes, so I would think the second unit starts with Larry Nance and Trey are probably the first 2 off the bench. And then the backcourt's going to be rounded out by Jose Alvarado and Devontae Graham. I think they're going to try to experiment with those 2 together initially, especially against opposing bench units, because, I think there's a little bit less of an issue with going that small in your backcourt against opposing benches versus starting units. And then what's going to round it out is who's going to get that 5th spot. And I think Jackson Hayes gets the nod at the moment. And he's, I guess, one of their more senior players now. He's been here the longest, but he's also coming up for a contract. And he did prove himself to be effective as a starter. So, I don't think they just excise him out of the rotation. That would be unfair to him. But yeah, I think, for now he gets the nod there. And then as the season goes, we'll see. Is
Dyson Daniels going to crack this rotation? I mean,
I hope so.
He's like the idea of Dyson Daniels, which is just a large athletic point guard, maybe non-shooter, but just a guy who can distribute the basketball. On paper, that fits perfectly in my mind for what a lineup would be. If we're doing creative player, if I'm talking about like CJ McCollum, like I don't love him. It's just my one, like, as my point guard, like I want him to be off the ball some and just be a scorer. And if you can have a guy like Daniels, who again, theoretically has the size to guard both backcourt positions and can handle the ball, like I like that fit. But I guess it's going to be curious when you already have Devontae Graham on the roster, you already have Jose Alvarado coming off a great rookie season. You know, are they going to have patience to put in, to find minutes, to force feed minutes for Dyson Daniels to, you know, like maybe a minutes investment early in the season will pay off down the road because you do get closer to maybe what an ideal fit is going to be or create some of these more ideal lineups.
Yeah, this is where I wish the Pelicans and Willie Green would take a page out of Memphis's book and trust their younger players a little more with some of those responsibilities. But Willie Green is a coach that certainly makes the rookies absolutely earn their minutes. And while I think Dyson is more than capable of playing minutes at the moment, and he would do really well to play with talented offensive players because he is a good connector. He does see the floor well. And like you said, you could plug and play him in different spots defensively. Just seeing him in limited minutes in the first preseason game, it's evident that this guy is going to be good on defense. He slides his feet extremely well. There was moments where he just completely contained Zach LaVine. And it seemed effortless. He just slid his feet, stopped that drive. And you're like, wow, this is a rookie. So it's impressive what he can do, but I think right now he'd probably be the 11th man. And I think they would give the nod to Jose and Devontae first, see if that pairing works. And then, you know, probably take 10, 15 games or so to adjust that. Or if someone goes down, Dyson works his way in. As long as it's not Garrett Temple, I hope Garrett Temple, you know, like Willie Green's like looking down the bench, like, hey, we need a defensive minded
Who can
player.
I trust? Yeah.
Who can I trust? Garrett, that guy.
No, like Garrett Temple, solid NBA player. He's a great story as far as a guy who just bounced around for a long time and turned his basketball ability into a long NBA career. But he's also the guy who you're like, he has no ceiling, guys. Let's develop somebody else. Because I experienced it. He was on the Grizzlies the year that they ended up with Ja Morant, you know, the bad year. I want to say the first game of the year, he scored 30 points and hit like 8 3-pointers. Game 1 of the season. And I literally made the joke on Twitter, like, that's going to cost us. Because he's going to be playing so many minutes now. Like, he's like, they're going to turn to him all the time. Like, game 1, I'm like, man, I wish he went 0 for 5 game 1 as opposed to being on fire. Here's an important question that should help stoke the rivalry between our fan bases. Who's the better player, Zion Williams or Trey Murphy?
Wow. You know, Zaire impressed me. I thought he was going to be further off than he was last year. You know, he had a bit of a rocky start, as was expected, and his overall like percentages aren't fantastic, but he improved, and he proved like the biggest thing to me was he was able to function as that spot starter and not tank those units and the Grizz. And that's super important to me because you're playing valuable minutes against opposing starters with other good players on your team, and that's, in my opinion, one of the best ways to grow young players is to give them those kind of repetitions. And you don't just put them out there with trash bench units and leave them, you know, to fend for themselves. Like, that's not how it works. But you know, I really and truly do believe that Trey is going to be more versatile defensively, just because I think that frame is better, even though they're similarly sized, like in terms of height and like length. I think Trey has a bigger frame, will put on more muscle and will make a bigger impact there. And I think, you know, if all else fails, Trey will have a singularly elite skill, which is his shooting. Yeah. And I think that those two things make me lean towards Trey there.
I don't have a strong opinion. I know I'm supposed to say Zaire from covering the Grizzlies, but I haven't seen Trey Murphy as much. And some of the clips and some of the games that Trey Murphy I've seen have been awesome. And it's like, oh, that is that elite. You know, it's the 3-and-D guy. It's the combo guy. It's the guy you want. It's the good size, the defender, and then the elite 3-point ability. We hope as Grizzlies fans that Zaire gets there, and maybe we dream because he's a little bit younger that he'll be able to develop even more on the ball skills and be like a legit starter, maybe a high scorer. But yeah, I'm not sure. It's going to be a fun one to monitor, like who gets better. Here's another controversial one. Who's the better player, Jonas Valanciunas or Steven Adams?
Come on, I gotta pick JV. I got to, because you know why? I saw what Steven Adams did for this team, and I saw what Steven Adams did for y'all's team in the playoffs too. Yeah. Like, look, both those guys are not like playoff. Like,
he had COVID, man. He had COVID. Steven Adams in his games, he had COVID.
Poor guy, man. Poor guy. Dude. Amazing character. You know, someone you absolutely want on your team to interview as a media person. But you know, I think JV. I think JV causes matchup problems, and there are certain teams that you can absolutely go big with him and survive in the playoffs. Whereas like I really and truly think that Adams, like no matter which team you go against, is not going to be part of your closing five if you want the best version of Memphis. And part of that's because Jaren Jackson Jr. is so good.
I would say that I would only specifically agree with that statement because the Grizzlies have Jaren Jackson Jr. and Brandon Clark. And that pairing is such a versatile and unique and difficult matchup for basically everyone. I think that is your closing lineup. But like, I don't think necessarily that Steven Adams gets played off the court, despite the fact he specifically got played off the court against the Timberwolves in game 1 of that series this year. But like the guy has so much playoff experience at a high level. Like he's been in so many elite playoff situations. A lot of that, the league was a little bit different, like 7 years ago, where there wasn't as much 3-point shooting. And
he had Kevin freaking Durant on his team.
They had Kevin Durant. They had Russell Westbrook. But we got Ja Morant. So I mean, like we're excited.
Yeah. So here's my question to you: is how much of a drop off is there from Steven Adams to Xavier Tillman?
So I think there's a big one. I think it's a significant one. So here's my argument against Jonas Valanciunas. The year Jonas Valanciunas was on the Grizzlies and they made the playoffs, I thought the Grizzlies were better with Xavier Tillman on the court. I was like, I know, dude. I know he gets 6 offensive rebounds a game, Jonas, and I know he scores 20 points on like 65% field goal percentage. But like, I feel like when he's not there, nothing changes. Like our team plays just as well. We like he can guard. Xavier Tillman was guarding like in weird random regular season games. Like he was guarding Joel Embiid better. It's like we have to put Xavier Tillman on because Joel Embiid is killing Jonas Valanciunas. And then we got in the playoffs and it was like, we're getting killed. Anytime Jonas Valanciunas is on the court, it was back when.
But how'd you get into the play? Didn't your JV have a huge
great
play-in?
Regular season player?
What about the play-in though?
He will get you to 42 wins.
Didn't he dominate the Spurs and the Warriors in the play-in?
He's the all-time leading rebounder in the history of the NBA play-in tournament. Yes.
Yeah, especially now too because he got 2
he
more
has
play-in games.
Rebounding totals in the play-in games that will never be matched. He's in it every single season. Jonas Valanciunas will get you to the play-in. Put it on his resume. That is it. Get you past the play-in. No, he will not. No, he's a great guy. He's a confounding player. He for me, again, like the impact stats show, he really helps your team. He's very efficient when he shoots. But I had like a theory where I'm like, I think losing Valanciunas is going to be good, guys. Like I was like, we don't ever beat good teams when Valanciunas plays. I don't care if he had 25 and 15 or whatever. We never beat good teams when Valanciunas plays. And then he left. And then it's like, hey, we just won 56 games. I'm not going to say like also some of that was Grayson Allen. I have lots of receipts where I'm like, people are like, man, we got rid of Jonas Valanciunas and Grayson Allen. I'm like, I have an entire year of like tweets being like, can we play one lineup that doesn't include Grayson Allen and Jonas Valanciunas? All of our lineup data says we're awesome when these guys are off the court. So I don't know. I mean,
one more hypothetical. One more hypothetical for you. So with the leaps the players made last year, Jaren Jackson, Ja, Bane, especially Bane. Now, if you do a re-swap of JV and Adams,
right?
Do you not feel
a great one.
like, do you not feel like, do you think there would be a significant difference, like if it one way or another?
It's a great question. I don't think there'd be a huge difference. I do think I'm going to say I think they will be a little bit better with Adams with this, because I think it's all about we want the shots to come from Ja and from Desmond, basically. Yeah. And we love the fact that Steven Adams got a rebound and wouldn't shoot it. We loved it that he handed it to somebody else. Loved that about him. It's a great hypothetical situation. I don't know. Maybe the Grizzlies would have won 56 games last year if Jonas Valanciunas was there. They would not have won 56 games if Grayson Allen was starting over Desmond Bane.
No,
get out of my
absolutely
face.
Not.
Non-serious option as a starter on a playoff. You hear me, Bucks? It's a non-serious option as a playoff team. No, I mean, again, and we don't have proof. Like there's no way you can prove the unknowable. Like you said, the Grizzlies got better, but also Desmond Bane made a huge leap, and Jaren Jackson Jr. played 77 games, whatever it was, and Ja Morant made this huge leap. So
yeah. I think on the converse of that, if you were to do a re-swap for the Pelicans, they would get significantly worse. Because the Adams Zion combo, even though Zion was still efficient, just doesn't work as well. I don't think it works as
I
well
think you're
for
right.
Ingram and that kind of stuff. So
that makes sense.
So,
Although I need to look up the stats. I want to say Steven Adams held Jonas to like 3 rebounds a game last year in the
possible
in
it's
the
possible.
matchup. The head-to-head matchups were painful, physically painful. No, I like Jonas a lot as a person. He's hilarious. I need to know who's the greater fisherman between the two, because Jonas and Steven Adams both really into fishing. But
it's not Herb Jones, because he gave an interview during media day. He loves fishing. It's like the one break he took from his offseason training, he went fishing, and he was out there all day on this lake, and he got 0 bites. So it's not Herb Jones.
That's a lack of poise. It's a lack of I don't know, being able to sit still, possibly. Well, anyways, Shamit, thanks so much for coming on, man. Hopefully we'll get some on-court battles this year. We'll get some Steven Adams versus Zion Williamson versus Jonas Valanciunas versus Jaren Jackson Jr. And we can put some of these rivalries, we can heat them up and answer some of these questions. Who's the most impactful center making exactly $13 million per year or whatever it is?
Yeah, it's the question that every league wants to know. Like, there was a secret question in the NBA GM survey that didn't get published, and it was specifically around that.
That's right. Who got the better end of the trade where they swapped the 10th and 17th picks and Eric Bledsoe's salary? Anyways, where can people get some Pelicans coverage from you?
You can find me at Fear the Brown on Twitter. Do all my stuff for Boot Crew Media, and you can, check out their YouTube channel, which is Boot Crew Media, or check out the podcast, which is In the Know, which is NO like New Orleans. So check it out.
Sounds great. All you guys check that out. Thanks, Shamit, and then I'll look forward to you coming on again sometime.
Appreciate you, Keith.